Allora, Iprona è un'azienda familiare che è stata fondata nel 1981 qui a Lana in Alto Adige. L'anno scorso abbiamo generato un fatturato che ha superato i 100 milioni di euro e all'anno, diciamo, trasformiamo più di 30.000 tonnellate di frutta e li trasformiamo in concentrati, estratti, puree e polpe. Iprona opera in tutto il mondo, nella maggior parte dei casi ci affianchiamo a degli agenti o a degli distributori e soltanto il mercato europeo viene gestito in modo diretto. L'anno scorso abbiamo venduto in più di 60 paesi e l'84% del nostro fatturato deriva proprio dall'export e solo il 16% risulta dal mercato domestico, cioè quello italiano. Iprona è suddivisa in tre unità, anche chiamate business units. Abbiamo la business unit dei concentrati, degli estratti e dei compounds. E ognuna di queste unità indirizza un mercato strategico diverso. I concentrati indirizzano il mondo del food e del beverage, gli estratti invece il nutraceutico e i compounds, anche questi indirizzano il beverage, però offrono anche un servizio di R&D avanzato. I concentrati forniscono cioè la business unit dei concentrati fornisce i semi lavorati alle industrie alimentari che a loro volta li usano poi per produrre il prodotto finito. Questi semi lavorati possono essere, come avevo detto prima, puree, concentrati o anche polpe. E diciamo i nostri clienti più grandi si muovono in ambito beverage, fanno parte dell'industria dolciaria, del dairy e per noi anche molto importante sono i produttori di marmellate e che preparano anche i preparati di frutta e anche quelle aziende che non usano i semi lavorati di frutta per ottenere un certo sapore nel prodotto finito, ma una certa colorazione. Quindi usano i nostri concentrati come colorante naturale. La nostra business unit Compound funge un po' come reparto di R&D che sviluppa e fornisce delle basi di bevande ai clienti e diciamo il cliente viene da noi con una certa idea, noi gli sviluppiamo la base, gli facciamo la miscelazione e lui acquista poi da noi la base di bevanda che è molto simile a uno sciroppo. Quindi lui deve solo aggiungere a questa base dell'acqua o dell'alcol e ottiene quindi la bevanda finita. L'unica cosa che noi non facciamo è l'imbottigliamento. Stefan e io facciamo parte della business unit degli estratti. Noi siamo gli esperti quando si tratta della produzione e la commercializzazione di estratti di bacche scure che sono stati standardizzati sul contenuto delle antocianine e dei polifenoli. Attualmente produciamo estratti di aronia, di ribes nero, di sambuco e di amarena. Fondamentalmente abbiamo tre varianti di prodotti. Abbiamo un estratto in polvere, abbiamo un estratto liquido e abbiamo anche una frutta in polvere che però è stata standardizzata come anche gli altri due prodotti sul contenuto delle antocianine e dei polifenoli. Quindi sono delle polveri di frutta funzionali. Tutti i nostri estratti vengono commercializzati con un brand, sono quindi titolati e fanno parte della famiglia dei craft. Gli USP o anche gli argomenti di vendita di questa famiglia sono la filiera di approvvigionamento europea, il processo di estrazione che non fa uso di solventi, gli studi clinici che dimostrano l'effetto benefico dei nostri prodotti e, come avevo detto prima, la standardizzazione sul contenuto di polifenoli e di antociani. I nostri destinatari sono le industrie nutraceutiche, le industrie farmaceutiche e le industrie alimentari che producono il functional food. L'ElderCraft è il nostro prodotto più importante, è anche il nostro cavallo di battaglia. È il primo estratto di sambuco al mondo titolato e anche scientificamente riconosciuto. Il sambuco è interessante per il mondo del nutraceutico perché la bacca è molto ricca di polifenoli e di antocianine, quindi è ideale per la produzione di estratti. In passato, quando l'effetto salutistico dei polifenoli non era ancora noto, l'estratto veniva usato soltanto come colorante naturale per il mondo del food. Poi invece dal 2005 in poi Iprona ha deciso di indirizzare anche le industrie nutraceutiche e quindi di commercializzarlo come sotto forma di integratore alimentare. Uno dei nostri punti forti è la filiera di approvvigionamento. Noi non andiamo ad acquistare la materia prima da terzi, ma ci affianchiamo direttamente ai contadini, alle cooperative agricole in Austria, in Stiria, con i quali stipuliamo dei contratti a lungo termine e questo ci garantisce di mantenere un prezzo stabile e garantisce ai contadini anche di avere un acquirente affidabile e a lungo termine. La varietà di sambuco che usiamo si chiama Hashberg, che è stata coltivata negli anni 50 attraverso un processo selettivo. La grande caratteristica di questa varietà è che le bacche maturano più o meno contemporaneamente e questo è un grande vantaggio per noi perché riduce il tempo di raccolta. E con questa slide passo la parola al mio collega Stefan che continuerà con gli studi scientifici su ElderCraft. Grazie per la vostra attenzione.
Grazie Thomas. Io non so se qualcuno vuole già fare una domanda o qualche domanda a Thomas. Io magari te ne farei una
Sì,
che dal punto di vista, diciamo, proprio commerciale dei numeri, no? Dato che siete fortemente presenti negli Stati Uniti,
sì,
no? E ci anticipavate il fatto anche che ci sono proprio degli studi, ci sono degli studi che sono stati effettuati sui botanicals e in particolare i numeri che sono fortemente in crescita anche per il sambuco, se non
sì.
so, volevi dire qualcosa su questo per dare qualche indicazione del mercato anche oltreoceano.
Sì, adesso non voglio anticipare troppo perché Stefan parlerà proprio di questa cosa, però diciamo riassumendo, per noi il mercato più importante è quello americano e quello cinese. Però man mano che anche qui in Europa, diciamo il sambuco che finora, soprattutto in Italia, non era molto conosciuto, diciamo, sta diventando sempre più interessante per i produttori di integratori alimentari.
Grazie mille. Allora passiamo la parola a Stefan. La presentazione di Stefan sarà in inglese e quindi le eventuali domande vi chiedo siano fatte in inglese. Grazie mille. Stefan, if you want, you can start. Thank you.
Okay. I'm not sure if you can see the presentation. Can you just tell me shortly?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, good. Because I cannot move forward. That's a bit problematic with the slide. I'm not sure. It seems that it's stuck.
I can see the first slide, but I can't see moving it.
Yeah, it's stuck. That's a bit the problem. Thomas, do you have access to the presentation on your side?
Yes, I think I should have access to the presentation. Just a second.
Okay. I think now it works. Can you see?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
It works.
Okay, so I think we can start. Thank you all for joining this webinar. My name is Stefan Plattner. I'm responsible for business development and the scientific studies at Iprona. As Thomas already mentioned, we are based in Italy, in the north of Italy. Revenue about 100 million euro of revenues. We process, in terms of black elderberry, 8,000 tons of fruit every year. We sell these extracts in the worldwide B2B market, and it's found in nutraceuticals all over the world. The biggest market is obviously the US. Currently, there is an elderberry boom in the US, and a lot of doctors are recommending elderberry also for the COVID-19, although there is no direct clinical evidence that it should be used and it can be used. Just to shortly look at the market, which Sarah, I think was your question before. We see a huge increase this year in sales, especially in the immunity supplement sales, and also in the elderberry sales. There's a spike of 25% in immunity sales. This has been strong already before, in the years before, from 2014 to 2018, and there was a constant growth of about 5%. But this year, this has really, the COVID crisis has really amplified this. Now, this data is from the Nutrition Business Journal, and they expect that you will bounce back to a level of about 5 to 10% of growth in 2021, but it will certainly be high. Now, everything will depend on how this crisis will move on how fast a antibody will be available, yes, immunization will be available, and how fast a medicine will be available. So there are many factors will play in, but they expect that the trend for a strong immunity cells will be very high in the future. Now, this is nothing new. Elderberry was already used in the past, and we have the first written history of black elderberry in Greece, 5th and 4th century before Christ. We have several written documents from this time. We have from medieval times, we have Martin Blochowicz, who was writing a book in 1644 in Germany. During the Spanish flu season, during the Spanish flu in 1918 and 1919, black elderberry was used as the main botanical against the Spanish flu, especially in Catalonia. Based on that, about 20 years ago, the first clinical study was done in Panama. There was another flu outbreak, and an Israeli group has done a clinical study during this outbreak, and that was the first one. A second one was done in Denmark, and the third one we have done very recently about 4 years ago in Australia. Now the third clinical trial, what has been done by Iprona and the Queensland University, I would like shortly introduce you on how this was done. we have done this clinical trial with more than 300 people, so a human clinical trial. We have used a quite interesting setting where we tested long-haul flight passengers. We gave them placebo and ElderCraft. And the setting, we did that because when you board a plane for a long distance travel, you have about 20% of getting a flu infection. This is because of several reasons. First of all, there's a lot of stress involved in long distance flights. You have a time change, the zone in time zones. There is a lack of sleep, and obviously there's also high virus load in the plane from other people. And additionally, there's air condition, which also is not good for your immune system. So the study was done in Australia. People were boarding the plane there, and it was published in Nutrients in 2016. So very shortly to the setup of this study. The treatment was about for 15 days, 10 days before the flight. On day 0 was the flight. People were taking the capsules, the placebo and the ElderCraft, also 5 days after the flight. Before the flight, they were taking 2 capsules per day, and after the flight, they were taking 3 capsules per day. This was somehow, the reasoning behind that was that before the flight, there is a less pressure on the body, and then during the flight and afterwards, there's a higher pressure. We did the surveys, so there was the markers were based on surveys. There was a baseline survey done 10 days before, a survey during the flight and shortly before, and 5 days after the flight. The survey was capturing the physical status of the people and how they felt and if they have a flu. So once it was clear that they had a flu, all the symptoms were captured for at least 5 days. So we had 320 subjects in this study. We tested ElderCraft, the black elderberry extract, against placebo, and we measured incidence, severity, and duration of cold symptoms. Now we jump right into the results. Interestingly, there was a significant reduction of cold episode days when we look at placebo versus elderberry. There was also a significant reduction in improvement of cold symptoms. Now, if you look here, the cold episode days in placebo versus cold episode days in elderberry, what you clearly can see is that there is none of these long-term infections. And this is also the main reason for the significance. Very strong was the difference in the cold symptom score. So the placebo, they felt much worse than in the elderberry group. Now, another interesting fact, what we have seen is that when you board a plane, your quality of life decreases. And that's well known in the airlines. So it's not something a long distance flight is not something what is good for your body. So every airline is doing everything that you feel better in the plane. So your quality of life decreases. But what we have seen is that if you take elderberry, your quality of life stays the same. And that was a very interesting observation as well. Now to summarize on the right side, the data, what we have found. If you look at the cold episode days, we see, so the gray one is placebo, the red one is the ElderCraft. So we see a reduction from 17 to 12 cold episodes. We see a significant reduction in combined illness duration. We see a reduction in cold duration, and we also see a very significant reduction in symptom score severity. So this was very interesting, but then the question arises, how is this working, right? So elderberry works. This has been seen since thousands of years, from the Greece to clinical studies to also this study. But the question is, how does this work? And if we look a bit closer on how a viral replication works, we can really look at the mode of actions. Just to summarize how this roughly works, an infection. So the virus needs to attach to the cell. You have this adhesion process. Then you have a kind of endocytosis where the membrane goes over the virus and the virus goes into the cell, into the host cell. Then the virus releases the RNA. The RNA is then multiplied inside the nucleus. The amplified RNA is then combining again with the shell of the virus and is then releasing the full virus particle and is then infecting other cells. Now, potentially you can inhibit every step of this replication, and this is also what many drug companies are doing with their components. For example, this fludase is inhibiting the adhesion process, the arbidol is inhibiting the fusion, the ribavirin is inhibiting the replication, and for example, here on the right top side, the neuraminidase inhibitors, they are inhibiting the release of the virus. So now what we can see is where is elderberry inhibiting this process. The first study, so the first mode of action is based on this adhesion process right in the beginning of the cell. So this study was published some years ago where they did in vitro tests, and they found that flavonoids are strongly binding to viruses, to the outer shell of the virus, and therefore inhibiting the adhesion and blocking the receptors and inhibiting the adhesion of the cells to the host cell. Now, this was super interesting because it is one mode of action which could explain why elderberry is inhibiting the replication of the virus. There's also a second mode of action where a research group in Australia
Stefan, we cannot hear you. Thomas?
Yes.
Maybe there is some problems in the connection.
Probably.
Can you hear me?
Ah,
yes.
Yeah, now again.
Yes, now yes. But we can see the presentation.
Okay. You see it now?
Now it works.
Okay.
Perfect.
So we were talking about the mode of actions. So the first mode of action was the blocking of the outer shell. So when flavonoids are binding to the receptors of the virus and therefore blocking the entry of the virus. The second mode of action was published in 2013, and it's a very powerful mode of action where they showed that one specific component in elderberry binds to a crucial enzyme in the virus replication and is therefore inhibiting this enzyme. This enzyme is called neuraminidase, and is the component in elderberry is the cyanidin-3 sambubioside. And what you can see here on the left side is the molecule, and on the right side you can see how it is really binding to the pockets of the neuraminidase and inhibiting it. On this green molecule is zanamivir. This is actually a component which is already on the market and is sold by a drug company with a patented mode of action. And this is one of the main drugs used against flu. So this cyanidin-3 sambubioside has a similar mode of action, but is shows a slightly different binding to this enzyme. This research group has really shown that it can inhibit the replication of the virus in vitro. So very interesting mode of action, but there's a third one, and that is that mode of action works on a level higher, and it works directly on immune cells. So what this research group has seen is that components in black elderberry stimulate immune cells in a way that it is anti-inflammatory. So they have fractionated the elderberry juice, and they have tested different fractions, and they have found that the high molecular weight fraction is the most potent one in stimulating immune cells. They believe that polysaccharides in this fraction bind specifically to immune cells and activate a cascade of cytokine production. Now we have tried to replicate this, and what we have seen is that monocytes, if we stimulate monocytes with elderberry, we get a very specific differentiation. Usually you can see, or it goes to the M1 side, or it goes to the M2 side. What we have seen is that monocytes really differentiate to the M2 monocytes, and they are responsible for immunoregulation, downregulation, tissue repair, and also for the healing process. We did not publish that yet. We are currently in the process of identifying the polysaccharides which are responsible for this. So we have fractionated again. We are isolating these polysaccharides, and we are testing them against various immune cells. So to summarize, ElderCraft, we have a standardized product with 14% anthocyanidins. Interestingly, one of the main component is cyanidin 3 sambubioside. So specifically this component which is responsible for the inhibition of the neuramidase enzyme. And here in the middle is a spectrogram, a typical spectrogram, what you get if you run this product over HPLC. You have the first peak is cyanidin sambubioside 5-glucoside. Second one is this interesting one which binds to the enzyme, and the third one is cyanidin 3-glucoside. So this method is also available and is also helpful in fighting adulteration, because what we see now on the market is that there are a lot of products which are really not elderberry. We did some tests on competitor products which are floating the market, and most of them is not elderberry, it's kind of black rice or just color. So this really helps in identifying the real elderberry extract. We have about 20% polyphenols, various polyphenols, quercetin, rutin, and several other larger molecules, polyphenols. And we also have the high molecular weight fraction. Now the high molecular weight fraction is in this product because we have a special production technology. We use the Iprona polyphenol technology, which is basically an ultrafiltration to enrich and concentrate anthocyanins and polyphenols and polysaccharides. So what we do is we do an extraction, a water extraction from the berries, and we then use this juice and we concentrate it by filtration through these very thin membranes, and this creates two streams. On one side the larger molecules, and on the other side the smaller molecules. So by that we are able to remove water, salts, and especially sugar from the product, and on the other side to concentrate anthocyanins and polyphenols and polysaccharides on the other side. So in the US, this product is very popular now. We were able to get FDA structure function claims. Here's a list of what is currently possible to put on the label in the US. Strengthens the immune system, immune support, provide antioxidants. It helps in upper respiratory tract health. Now these are all claims which are possible in the US. Obviously in Europe the story is a bit different. What companies do here is mostly they combine it with components which have a health claim, and by that they are able to put similar claims on the packages. Now formulation is, there are basically no limits. Most of the products on the market are syrups and capsules. In the US mainly capsules and syrups, but we see a lot of new innovative products coming up now. Lozenges, we see gummies. Gummies are getting stronger every year, but also sachets and sticks. The product is very stable in powder formulation, but it's also possible to formulate it in syrups. Although you need to be careful with the pH, that the pH has a certain it's below 4.5. But in terms of applications, there are everything is basically possible. Now to summarize, I think Thomas has already mentioned shortly the unique selling points. We have the human clinical studies with this product where we have shown that the duration and severity of the flu is reduced. We have an idea about the mechanism of action on how it works in human bodies. Second, we have a unique technology, which is the Iprona polyphenol technology, which doesn't use any toxic solvents to concentrate and extract the product from skins. And it also enriches the polysaccharides, where we potentially see a big future for these components in terms of immune support. And third, we have a complete European supply chain. So we have contracts with farmers which exclusively produce for Iprona the product. So we are not buying on the spot market the raw material. We have contracts with farmer and they produce every year the fruits for us. So this allows a full traceability from field to shelf.